Bouncing with that
drop. KCP in the middle. Bounce, Larry. Throw that baby down. Oh, my goodness.
Dwight Howard! Are you kidding? With some anger.
Kyrie get out of that double team. With the hip fake. What a move by Hakeem Olajuwon.
Levine, he goes right.
Oh! Does anybody know how to post videos?
Welcome back in to the Drop Step Podcast, episode 11. Shout out to our man Shaq, the Diesel, for all that he is doing and all that he is allowing. Make sure you download his app.
The Shaq Fu Radio app, or go to ShaqFuRadio.com and take a listen to the Drop Step Podcast. Like I said, we're new to the platform. From now on, not only will you be able to get us on Apple Podcasts, but you'll be able to get us through Shaq Fu Radio. So appreciate it to the big fella.
He's Brandon Harper, the B-Dog, I'm Home Team. And we also have Book the Hook here for episode 11 as we go around the NBA and beyond. We'll get into a fan who was banned for racially motivated slurs and racial comments in Boston. However, is it enough? We'll get to that. Trae Young, final few games of the regular season in his rookie campaign, hits a game-winning shot. Luka Doncic, done for the season. Does that mean the Rookie of the Year has been won by Trae Young? We'll get to that. We get a 20-20-20 game, a triple-double by Russell Westbrook that is one for the ages. We'll get into that. But first, we'll start off by, a story that supersedes sports and it blends into sports. The murder of rapper Nipsey Hussle, who was murdered in broad daylight, out in the open, senseless tragedy, and certainly the rap community, NBA community, the decent community has come forward to just bring attention to, once again, another example of something that didn't have to happen, and hopefully something that can be stopped moving forward by the death of this man who completely turned his life around.
When this news came across, it was a Sunday, I really couldn't believe what I was reading. I had to look it over about 3-4 times to make sure I was actually reading what I was reading. I have pretty good eyesight, but I had to look it over 3-4 times because I'm like, Nipsey Hussle has been shot outside of his store, outside of his neighborhood, on his block. And, I saw all kind of just headlines and everything coming through social media, and they said it just wasn't good. And when they announced that he had died, it was an eerie feeling that just came over me. Now, I've never met Nipsey personally. I've only known him through his music and a lot of his philanthropic work throughout the years. But it was eerie, it was weird. It was really weird as a guy who really listened to a lot of Nipsey's music throughout the years. To see that and to hear that, I really did feel some type of way. A lot of people are comparing this to Pac when he died. I was 5 or 6 years old when that happened. But I would assume this is how it kind of feels now that Nipsey is gone. The way people who were able to realize the impact that Pac made at that time, I'm pretty sure this is the same way that they felt when that happened.
Yeah, I would completely agree, man. Like when Pac passed, I was in middle school, so it wasn't the same type of, I couldn't feel it. I wasn't a grown man, so I didn't understand, like all of the stuff that kind of comes along with it. So, I definitely had that feeling with this, man. And the crazy thing is, like me and you were talking about, I'm not the biggest, West Coast listener, but like obviously I know who Nipsey Hussle is and know of his music and have given him a couple spins and everything, but I wasn't as familiar with the type of person that he was, and the type of like his activism and his philanthropy work, and the things that he was trying to do. I knew that he owned a nice portion of his block where he grew up on, I was aware of that, but all of the other things like his mindset, and the things that he was trying to accomplish, not only for his people, but just for people as a whole, so the more reading and, research as I do on him, it hurts even worse, because like I wasn't as familiar with him as you were, so as I do the research, I almost had to catch myself last night as I was, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I was like, man, like this is getting worse for me. Like I'm making it worse on myself by, diving even deeper into this rabbit hole, man. But, RIP, man, because he was definitely on the right track as far as, having people behind him and making a movement, man.
And it's a blend of, American history, sports history, music history with him. He was just at one of the NCAA tournament games at the Texas Tech game. So, and he was certainly well known among the West Coast teams and certainly the players that were from that part of the country. And so just the blending of being an artist, being somebody who was a community leader, a guy, bought up a couple of businesses and bought up a couple of properties where he could run his own business and help kids, help kids with technologically based programs to kind of get them ahead of the curve, where a lot of kids are way behind the curve just because they don't have certain resources. So, turning his life around and then to have it just all end, certainly it was felt within the NBA community. And I like the fact that TNT, they had a players only, their final players only, took the time to let Baron Davis, who's a West Coast guy, get a few minutes just to reflect and give his opinions on the situation.
And I got to give kudos and props to Baron Davis. Listening to him, and he knew Nipsey personally, I believe, just like a lot of dudes around the NBA do who are from the area that he's from. And just listening to him articulate what Nipsey meant to him and what he meant to the LA community. I mean, I could hear the trembling in his voice. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they went to commercial. He just, hey, y'all give me a minute. Because at that moment in time, the more and more I've heard people talk about Nipsey, especially people who have met him, the more and more emotional they become. Like I say, I've never met him, but like I said, I've listened to him for so long, and I've been watching him do certain things for his communities and other communities around the country for so long that it's weird. And I feel for his family. You got guys like, DeMar DeRozan, Kawhi Leonard, Russell Westbrook, guys who grew up in that LA or that Southern California area, and you see all the dedication and everything that they're doing in his honor, in his name. I think you can see how his impact is felt, just not in the hip hop community, but all around the sports world as well.
I think, and you certainly, no need to start, getting all into the heaviness of it. First of all, man's life was taken, and that needs to be dealt with. They have, as of this podcast, they have the suspect in custody,
right?
And then the proceedings will take place. My understanding, looking at his chart that they put online, once he was booked, he doesn't get bail. So he doesn't look like he's going to be free. I don't know if that's something in California where you're not able to get bail on a murder charge, or if that has something to do with his priors or whatever. But, the justice process has already started. The only thing I can think of is it just seems like from what we're hearing on the first reports is it was a disagreement, something verbal. There was nothing where there was a threat. There was nothing where there was, revenge on taking the life of another. There was nothing that escalated to that level. It was words. And so, my comment is just, an overall, just painting with a broad brush is that, maybe one of the things we just got to take a look at if you're trying to move forward and find some right solutions is just the energy, the putting out any negative energy, because it just seems like if somebody can say something to somebody and then they would leave and come back allegedly,
right,
and then murder and almost murder two other people,
right,
just based on something that was not a threat, that's a problem.
That's the part I really had the biggest issue, getting over is like, where can you feel safe? Like, if you can't feel safe in a church, if you can't feel safe on an airplane, if you can't feel safe in your home, if you can't feel safe outside of your own place of business, like, where can you feel safe at? Like, where is your safe haven? As a man, it's difficult to deal with, because like, these are the things that you want, that you tell people to do. These are the invest your money. Like, he's doing things right, and to still have this fate, it's tough to deal with, man. It's really, like, because that could be anybody. That could be any of us. Like,
I'm starting to get into a mode where, when I see conflict, sometimes just let it go.
Yeah.
Even if I know I'm right, even if it's something over a parking space, because what I'm starting to see is that escalation of confrontation is leading to incarceration. Words are leading to bad things happening. And so for me, not saying that Nipsey certainly wasn't wrong in anything he did, but just, if there's anything you can take from it, just if you got a whack job running around, somebody who's beefing off and popping off at the mouth, you know what? I don't know what you can do differently, but just try to maybe diffuse some situations and just let some stuff move on, because it's just ridiculous that a man would leave, come back, and then do that to another man who's, got a significant other, got 2 kids, and even if he didn't, he's still a human being, and do him like that in broad daylight.
Yeah, that's the thing. You feel for his family, you feel for his children, his brother, his sister. There are other people, who are the closest to him, who depended on him, who looked up to him, who, looked to him for advice, who he helped raise. And it sucks because even when you do everything right, or you seem to do everything right, when you give back to the very neighborhood and the very block that you were raised on, and you try to create opportunity for everybody else around, there's always somebody in your community who you probably grew up with who've always felt some type of way about your success. They had the same 24 hours you had, but because, for whatever reason, they chose not to use that time wisely like you did, now you hating on this man. So instead of working with this man to build up the community, taking this man's life or hating on this man for whatever reason is uncalled for, and it's unfortunate that, you see a lot of times as some of us as men, especially as black men, need to come together more. We need to be able to express ourselves more to one another.
One thing that I have gotten out of this is the fact that just because you value life, just because you have that, appreciation for your life, you never know what the next man may not value life as a whole.
A lot of people
whatsoever.
aren't happy, man. They don't like their lives.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it real. I think they have a whole lot of people walking around hating. There are a whole lot of people walking around with low self-esteem, and they want to lash out when they can. And you're right. There's just some people walking around that have problems, and you don't know how far they're going to take the problems. And it's almost, you don't want to not interact with people, especially when you're a man like Nipsey was, a part of the community, and we don't know this guy's background, if this is his first time acting out, or if he's got a history of problems where he can't control himself. But the point is, you never know what the other person has got going on. And, the fact that people can just do foul stuff and walk around like nothing is of it is disturbing. And that's what I take out of this whole situation. It's just disturbing that somebody can allow words to escalate to what this escalated to. So you just hope that this is the last time we have to see this, but unfortunately it won't be. And that's the sadder part, of it all. To the basketball, Russell Westbrook did something that hadn't been done since the 60s. Triple-double, 20 points, 20 rebounds, 21 assists.
21 assists.
He said that it was in memory of Nipsey, so that was cool with him being a West Coast guy. Absolutely phenomenal. In a win. They weren't empty numbers. They ended up beating the Lakers, but it was still a win, and they still don't want to have bad games heading into the postseason.
No doubt.
Yeah, because the one team that's been on the downward spiral really since the All-Star break is the Thunder. They have a horrible record after the All-Star break. And you're talking about a team that has just trickled down in the rankings when it comes to the Western Conference. I think they're in the 8th spot. So guess what? You got a date with, guess what? You know who? Mm-hmm. The Golden State Warriors. So you want to tango with them in the best of 4 out of 7. And I don't know if that's something that they wanted to see in the first round.
It's not. Let me tell you, it's not something they wanted to see.
but at the same time, you put yourself in this position.
No doubt.
You all are the ones that, they're the ones that didn't play up to the level that they're supposed to be, and they haven't been able to win games over the stretch after the All-Star break. So, hey, just you got a date with the Warriors.
Hey. In mentioning the Russell Westbrook going for 20-20-20, I didn't think the fact that, so Nip was a Crip.
Yes.
Rolling 60s.
Rolling 60s.
I didn't get the reference to the 20-20-20
I did.
until Westbrook actually pointed it out. And I think that's even doper to have that in mind before the game and actually go out and execute that against everyone else's will, right? And still pull it off. Like, that is as athletic of a tribute as you can put to someone.
Catch this.
So I like that.
There would be, who else in the league? I mean, everybody else, provided, they gave their rest in peace and their, condolences in their own type of way. But who else other than Russell who would really do something like that for a guy like that?
But that's a great question, man, because
like,
as I think about it, I don't think there's another player in the entire NBA that is capable of getting a 20-20-20 game. I don't even think that at this point that's something that's in LeBron's wheelhouse, because the way that Russell Westbrook has to operate the game, like, I feel like he's the only one that could actually go do that.
I can only think of, the only other person I could think of would be Giannis, just because he's able to get the assists and the rebounds.
Right, true.
Outside of that, you're right. How many human beings in 48 minutes
Seriously
going to be able to pull that off? Russell Westbrook doing something that only Wilt Chamberlain did, and you're talking about
premeditated
50
too.
Years ago.
I think the part that is premeditated, like, I would say premeditated just based off of the reference, but like that, I think that's a huge factor in it too, man. So shout out to Russ. As far as them, sitting in that 8th spot, that is not where they want to be. But they got talent. I mean,
they got talent.
It's shaping up to be a better Western Conference playoffs than I expected.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be in a dogfight as soon as we say go in the Eastern Conference, but it's shaping up to be a much more competitive Western Conference landscape than I saw, let's say, 2-3 months ago. So I'm looking forward to it.
And I think he did a pregame press conference as well. Russ, I'm talking about, and being members of the media, we're oftentimes in locker rooms and there's one thing that somebody wants to ask and wants to talk about. And I believe there was a reporter that asked him about their relationship. I mean, before he could even say Nipsey's name, Russ went ahead and shut it down because he just didn't feel like talking about it at that time. And that's cool. But the issue I have with it is when you have somebody else follow up with the same question. If he's told you already, the man, I don't want to talk about that right now. Respect his wishes in the untimely demise of a friend of his.
Absolutely.
And that's the only thing that I ask. When it comes to stuff like this, it's a sensitive topic, it's a sensitive subject. If someone has already asked, hey, about your relationship, and he don't want to say anything, don't follow up with another question in regards to the first one. He's already saying he don't want to talk about it. Move on. He'll talk about it when he feels free.
Completely agree.
Playoff mode is not activated in Los Angeles. It is activated in Oakland. Top 2 teams in the West went at it. Nuggets came in a game behind the Warriors, and the way they were whooped, it should have cost them 2 games because the Warriors activated playoff mode for sure at Oracle Arena as they absolutely put on a show from the first half to the final horn against Denver. And you have to wonder if a game like that will be planted in the back of your mind if those teams meet up in the postseason. If you'll remember that you are really good, but you aren't the Warriors yet. Now Boogie starting to get acclimated. Now Andrew Bogut starting to get acclimated once again. There might be another run to the finals for the Warriors in impressive style.
What did Boogie have last night? 28 and 12?
Nice little stat line.
He had a nice little. You talk about his level of comfort now, being ingratiated into that system, into that team. He's shown that Achilles has healed well. There's no hangover from that. It's not bothering him. We still get the same old Boogie. He's gonna make himself some money in the offseason. But the Nuggets, they don't want none of the Warriors. And it's great the way the Nuggets have been playing all season long.
It's cute.
That's a good word to use.
Denver had a whole lot going on in the world. Boss Mello, Alex English been going a long time.
Right.
It's real cute. Shout out to the Nugget fans. Yet they're not the Warriors yet.
Nah, you can't stomp with the big dogs just yet.
These guys missed the playoffs. They had a chance to make the playoffs last year in a 1-game make it or don't make it when they played Minnesota on the last day of last season. They lost that game. So they clearly didn't have the mental fortitude to push through, get where we are determined to get to at that point. I can't say now, today, that they're completely over that. They've had an awesome regular season, but based on what I saw, you didn't even make the playoffs last year. You had a chance to make the playoffs last year and didn't. So I can't go all in and say that Denver is this, new heavyweight in the league in the West and is going to give the Warriors everything they want. I do, however, hope that it comes down to those two. I want to see them in that position and see what they got. I don't think that they have it, but I do at least want to see them with the opportunity to prove me wrong, though.
It was one of those deals where I think you're starting to see the teams that are shifting gears. It'd be interesting to see with all the teams, Joel Embiid being shut down, and the surprise that Giannis Antetokounmpo wasn't shut down after he had the little ankle scare a couple of games ago. But he says he wants to play. He's still doing well. How teams are getting ready to get ready for the playoffs. I think that'll be an interesting run to see how things finish up for the regular season. Also, with the Lakers being a part of the news because of LeBron James shutting him down, question comes up, did they wait too long?
Yes.
And I think most people would say yes. But see, I'm looking at them kind of like the Pelicans. They thought they were going to be something else, and they didn't find out until later that it wasn't going to be. They thought they were going to the playoffs. They thought they were going to have some playoff basketball with LeBron, be it 8, 7, 6, whatever, and he was going to carry them over the finish line. Then he gets hurt Christmas Day. This is his 18 games. They're a little bit behind the 8 ball. Have to come back and get him reacclimated. I just think there was too much of the season that had passed, and there was too much of a gap for them to overcome to realize that it was over before it was really over.
Yeah, look, outside of all the injuries, and it was a lot of injuries, but there was a time, after the All-Star break, when he came back, you had a couple of other injuries with Kuzma and obviously Brandon Ingram being shut down for the season or whatnot. But there was a time that LeBron was still playing, and I was wondering why. Why? And I understand. Look, he loves the game of basketball, and I understand you have to fight with LeBron to sit him down. And like you said, when they came to a conclusion that hey, I may need to sit down, and took Luke Walton and the front office and everybody to really convince him that he needed to sit down. There was a point in time I was like, when he had the opportunity and y'all first brought this up to him, he should have sat down then, because at that time the playoffs were out of reach. The playoff hopes, they were done. That train left the station. So I just feel as though they waited too late. There was nothing left to play for. You should have just put whoever else out there, let them play, let them get some reps, whoever it may be, and sit LeBron and keep some of that mileage off of his legs.
Let me throw this out here to you, man. We talked about this the day. We've referenced this date a couple times on this podcast. February 21st, when the Hawks February 12th, when the Hawks beat the Lakers in State Farm Arena. That should have been it. That was the clear indicator that this season is going nowhere. This season is going nowhere, and from that date forward, I promise you, if that date had been on the opposite side of the All-Star break, it would have got him shut down. The fact that the All-Star game was after they lost to the Hawks, I feel like gave him the opportunity to continue playing regular season games. But at that point, that was the clear indicator to me that this season has went awry. Let's do everything that we can do to get in the best position for the draft.
And it looked like miscommunication, because LeBron was asked about that before the Lakers decided to shut him down. Now what they're going with is rest for the groin, making sure that he gets the proper health, the rest that he needs. But he was asked about that. He basically gave the Giannis answer, which is, I'm healthy, I'm going to play, I'm always going to play. And then, I think it's the right decision to not play him when there's nothing else to play for, and he can do nothing but get personal stats and injure himself. And those things don't help the Lakers get to where they want to go. But I think it just goes to show the lack of communication, the disarray that obviously at the time he still felt comfortable enough where he thought he was going to play, and I'm playing. and that wasn't the case, no, if it got really bad, which it got really bad, the organization was going to make the decision to not play him. So the communication is off. And I think the debacle in LA surpasses LeBron James. It goes to Pelinka, it goes to Magic Johnson, it goes to Jeannie Buss.
Let me ask you this. I mean, that is exactly what I was hoping this would come up. Let me ask you. You got a first-time GM, Magic Johnson, with an assistant GM, former agent Rob Pelinka. Are they in over their head? Like, are we looking at a combination of players that are, personnel that are just overemployed?
We're going to find out because I think there are people who have been in the league and have credentials for many years and become GMs and they mess it up.
Right.
The question is, once you mess something up, how do you clean it up? And how quickly can you clean it up? This is an off season where there are going to be some great free agents. And are you going to be able to get them? Do they want to come? Because that is one of the worst things in all sports, not just the NBA, when you have room and you have the ability to get people and they don't want your city, they don't want to play with your players, and they don't want your money.
This is the offseason that's going to be the most telling. This is going to be it. This summer, I'm sitting on pins and needles, hoping that, the fortunes, and it's crazy to say this, that the fortune of the LA Lakers can turn around, because we all know that the league is better when the Lakers are at their best. After this summer, I'll be able to give you a more definitive answer.
Okay.
If things work out the way that they're supposed to, or work out in a way in which says we're moving upward and onward to where we can compete, then no, they're not in over their heads, because they've actually kept their word, at least on one end. But if they're not able to get anybody, and people just say, you know what, I'm not going to the Lakers. They may not say I'm not coming to LA. They may be going to the Clippers. But if they say especially if they go to the Clippers, if they come to LA and they forego the Lakers and go down the hall to the LA Clippers, not only will it look bad because you couldn't get a free agent, but it looks bad because you let the red-headed stepchild of Los Angeles, the LA Clippers, get people who are supposed to be donning the purple and gold. That looks 2 times worse on Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson than not getting somebody and they go somewhere else.
Well, let me tell you what the forecast looks like. It looks bleak because the Clippers are a playoff team.
Yeah.
If I'm a free agent and if I can insert myself to a team as the loaded gun, like call up the hitman, like if he can slide on in there, why would I slide in with the Lakers versus sliding in with the Clippers? Like you're right on that part. Like that aspect alone makes it a tough summer to overcome, because the Clippers are more attractive than the Lakers at this point. They've got more money. They've got a winning pedigree over the last few years that the Lakers can't really say that they have, and they're winning. Like, so
whose job is it? Is it Magic Johnson and Pelinka's job, or is it LeBron James's job to attract free agents? Because the history of LeBron James is not that great free agent talent has run to go play with him when he was in Cleveland. He went and hooked up with Chris Bosh, and they went down to Miami and won titles. But even when he went back, Kyrie Irving was already there. Right. And as a matter of fact, Kyrie left. Kyrie didn't want to play with LeBron James at the time when he was more so in his prime than he is right now. Who's responsible for attracting? Is that not LeBron James's job in the offseason to let it be known that things are wrong now, but they're going to be right moving forward?
I think it's both. But I think it's more so Magic, because if you don't attract a free agent to LA, LeBron is still going to be there.
That's right.
Magic is going to be the one out of a job. Magic said it himself.
Oh boy, he can't fire Magic Johnson.
No.
You can't fire Magic Johnson?
No. You cannot. I'm not saying out of a job to where he'll be fired. I'm saying out of a job to he himself will step down. He said this before. He said, if I cannot bring quality talent to the Los Angeles Lakers, Jeannie Buss won't have to fire me. Why? Because I will step down, because I have not done my job.
Should be on half a knee then, because right now, It's not a step, but he should be taking a knee. It's bad right now. You've had a situation where the locker room has been altered because everybody apparently was up for trade. If you get Anthony Davis, how does that help things in chemistry and build a team that's unified? You have not gotten the players you brought in to make a significant difference. You brought in some veterans with, Rajon Rondo coming in earlier and, trying to find a way for veterans to be a part of it. That didn't work. The guys that you guys have already had in the building, we haven't seen the leap in their progression and their development. What level has worked outside of getting LeBron James, who wants to come to LA so he can do his other business deals? Outside of that, where are the moves that have sprung the Lakers forward?
And the crazy part about all this is not about just the duration of LeBron James' contract, the next 3 years or so. This is about beyond that. Because if you can't get, let me just throw out let's say if you just have an Anthony Davis at 25, 26 years old. Not only is he there to play with LeBron to win a championship now or over the next 3 years, but this is about beyond that. Yeah. That's the scary thing about this. It's scary enough that, okay, you got 3 more years of LeBron, but LeBron can go off into the sunset. He'll be a Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest players of all time, and he does what he does. But you're still the Lakers. You're still left looking like, Will Smith at the end of at Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when everybody moved out. You sitting there looking in the room just, what's going on?
To answer your question, home team, this summer, I don't think it's LeBron's job to go get those free agents. Okay. And I say that based on your earlier comment. Like, that's never been his move. Like, he's never been the guy to pick up the phone. Other than D-Wade coming to Cleveland for that season, like, that's the only impactful, like, hey, come with me. Like, not let's get together. Right.
Flash, though.
Right, yeah, and he had flashed already, so, like, I don't see LeBron as the almighty recruiter that some people paint him as, because that's never really been the case. Mike Miller, Shane Battier's, those are the guys that have, like, the role players.
Kevin Love was traded. Right.
I mean, these are people that, fill out a roster, yes, but they're not those marquee players that will be available this summer. LeBron's never really been the guy to say, let's link up and do this.
He's not. But, however, I think because of where he is now and because of, because Magic is there, because LeBron is now donning a Lakers jersey, he may not have had that responsibility, quote unquote, then, but he kind of has it now. That's the way kind of people see it, because one of the reasons people probably wouldn't come to want to play in LA is because of him. So in a way, he is sort of kind of a recruiting chip, because it's kind of like, well, who will come and play with me? Many times we've always heard him say, I love to play with this guy. I love to play with this guy. And it makes headlines. We've heard guys come out, and technically say, I don't know if I want to play with LeBron because I don't know if I want to be a part of that circus. I don't know if I want to be a part of this. I don't know if I want to be sunned. So in a sense, whether he wants to be a recruiting piece or not, he kind of is by default.
Now, some of the optics have not been favorable for the King. Okay. Potentially blowing up the locker room because they wanted AD. Even if that's not on him, it looks like it's on him. Get AD in here no matter what you need to do. The optics of it. The other day, him getting the chain. The video of him getting the chain put on at the game. Him showing up, game he's not playing in, with the glass of wine. What's going on? The body language at the end of the bench. Baron Davis tried to, not Baron Davis, was one of his former Heat teammates.
Damon Jones.
Damon Jones trying to defend him, said he's always done. Then they come out and say that is something he needs to work on. The optics of LeBron James have been bad this season. Any impact on that, because he's going to be 35 years old. He's going to need some help, clearly. His defense certainly has been different this year than it's been in his entire career. He's going to need some help, but is he going to get the help he needs with other things going on that don't look like he's fully locked in? And you hate to always bring it up, like a Kobe, like a Michael Jordan. I never saw Kobe show up with wine. A glass of wine walking into an arena.
Keep the party going.
Goodness.
But you know what? Hey. But that's the difference between LeBron and Kobe, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, we've always seen LeBron when he was in Cleveland in the early days dancing with his teammates. He had a handshake for every single teammate before the game. He has the personality where he has all these shows. He has the relationship with all these artists and entertainers. That's just his personality, and that's always been the difference between him and a guy, say, like Kobe. Kobe was much more focused on basketball. Yes, you see Kobe in commercials. Yes, Kobe had a little bit of a personality, but it was basketball that came first. It was about, I'm focused on this. By any means necessary, I'm trying to get my team over the hump, even if it calls for me being a little selfish at times. And I think that's the difference. And I'm not saying one way is better than the other, because I like LeBron's personality. I like how personable he is. I like how over the years he's had fun. I like how over the years he's kind of been this social activist for the NBA and speaking out on things that could affect him and his family, or his little boys when it comes to, some of the racial tension that's been going on around the years. So I'm not saying one is better than the other, because it's not. They're just different. But when you're in a place like Los Angeles and you're following up a guy like Kobe Bryant, that's just what comes with the territory.
As we talk about this, one thing that is I'm just kind of looking down the road, as far as you said, with this being a next 3-year commitment type of thing, man. What's coming, what's coming into sight for me is, if they can't make something happen this summer, they really may have to look into moving LeBron James.
We talked about that a couple episodes ago. Is it crazy?
And it honestly, it was crazy to me to think then, like, as of making it happen now. But fast forward the clock. Let's say, that this summer doesn't go the way we want it to go from a Laker perspective. If we can only bring in tier 2 type of free agents, and we get, let's say we hit a 8 or a 7 seed next year with the first round elimination, you really have to, evaluate every possibility at that point.
So going that far down the road, next year, LeBron James will be 35. If they go and get bounced in the first round, the year after that, he'll be 36 coming up on that third year of his 4-year deal.
So you got to be proactive versus reactive in those cases, because you're dealing with the depreciating asset at that point that's definitely not going to be able to sell himself to come play with me, let's link up, and it's not that easy of a sale. So I think that these next few months will be some of the most important months in Laker franchise history, as far as the direction that they'll be heading.
Atlanta Hawks could be making some history. They give themselves a Rookie of the Year. Trae Young, game winner in overtime. Hawks beat the Bucks and was really nationally recognized again. I think the notoriety and the execution of Trae Young after his slow start, his rookie campaign, really, he's been much more consistent. He has been at a superstar level. He is making meaningful shots in the fourth quarter, clutch shots when you need them to be made, winning plays when they need to be made. And now I think with his play in conjunction with Luka Doncic being shut down, he's going to have a few more games than Luka Doncic. He also has played in every game this season. I think he is the Rookie of the Year, and the question is, will he and Luka share it? I think the travesty would be if you just give it to Luka, who won't finish the regular season, who didn't play in every game when he was there, and Trae finishes in spectacular fashion. I think that would be a tragedy.
I think they'll share it. I think at the least they'll share it, because even though I can see the reasoning giving it to Trae Young, I still can't forget the first half of the season. I can't not take that into consideration. Has Trae Young been the better prospect? Has he been the better player after the All-Star break? Abso-freaking-lutely. Not even close. And that's why I say, it's going to be like Jason Kidd and Grant Hill. It's going to be, you're going to have Rookie of the Year recipients. And I think that's the fair thing to do, just to acknowledge Luka in the first half, Trae in the second half. There you go, fellas.
As far as I do not see a scenario where Luka wins this Rookie of the Year by himself. That would be I would want to riot. I would be highly ticked off if Luka wins this by himself. I would be accepting if Trae Young and Luka split the award. At this point, with Luka being shut down, Luka, it's either 70 or 71 games that he'll end up playing. Trae on pace to play all 82. I think that has to be taken into consideration, as well as the fact that Trae Young has been ridiculously on fire for the second half. I think a lot of people, 1 month in, already had Luka's address on the Rookie of the Year award, which is unfortunate. So in some people's mind, there was no way that Trae Young could come back and surpass him. Truth be told, he's done that in my mind. I think it's Trae's Rookie of the Year award to lose, but I wouldn't be upset if they did share it.
And Trae's starting to get a lot of love from players in the league.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
After their post-game interviews on Twitter, even after the game where the Hawks lost to the Spurs, his name was brought up to Greg Popovich and brought up to Lloyd Pierce about other players saying that he is a Rookie of the Year. How is that working well for you and the team? And does that matter? And certainly it does matter. You want to win and be recognized, and certainly he won't win it by himself. His team making those shots on the assists that he hands out helps him with his numbers.
Absolutely.
So the team will help him get it, but it certainly is a situation where he's deserving. And I think they're both deserving. And I think, to your point, B-Dog, I mean, one guy came out with the better start, one guy didn't. One guy has a better finish, one guy didn't. I don't think you can look at either one of those players and say the other one clearly had the better rookie season than the other. That's why I think they should be co-rookies of the year.
And I think most people, like you said, most people would be okay with that.
Yeah.
They would be, like you said, there'd be some smoke in the city if it was just Luka winning the whole thing. I think people would be fine with another instance when you have co-rookie of the year recipients. I don't see an issue with that. Both of these guys are going to be the leaders and the forefront of their own franchise for years to come, barring no major injuries. They both shown this year that, they're no scrubs. They're far from scrubs. They're ballers. They ball out. They need other pieces with them. And as they continue to build their teams out over the years, they're going to be connected like Magic and Larry Bird were. And that's just the way it's going to be. Yeah. So this is a modern day version of Bird and Magic, and this is going to be fun to watch.
I'm really excited because no matter the outcome of the Rookie of the Year race, the Hawks have drafted themselves or traded for themselves a marquee player that other players would want to play with.
That's right.
And I think that's the most important thing. Like, Atlanta's never really been a free agent destination. People don't. Of all the cities and teams I can go play with, the Hawks never have hit the top of that list. The fact that Trae Young, being the facilitator that he is, and the way he can set the table for other players, I think that alone has put Atlanta into the free agent conversation. If not this year, next year, and for years to come.
And for fans who have seen a lot of losing the last couple of years, it looks like it's over. It's time to break out the bottles of Andre.
This is the funnest losing could possibly
celebrate, and the tank is over. It's coming to an end, and after this season, and after this lottery, and after this upcoming draft, you should have enough talent and enough development to begin the move forward, and we all should be happy that we don't have to look at losing enough to get enough ping pong balls or enough combinations in our lifetime.
There it is. Like you said, bring out the Andre for those who
pop the bottles.
Get your red cup, drink your Andre.
Get your little red cup. For those who indulge a little bit.
Case for $10.
Yeah. Facts.
Run it.
It's time for this city to. We'll take the Falcons slogan. It's time for this city to rise up. It's time for State Farm Arena to rise up.
It is, bro.
Well, it's time for all arenas to be on alert for knuckleheads. And we saw earlier in the year, Utah, I thought, did a fantastic job of stomping out foolishness when racial slurs were hurled at Russell Westbrook in Utah. The owner came out and said that the fan was banned for life. Well, wasn't the last time something like that went down, as we had a situation where a fan, Celtic fan, was hurling racial slurs towards DeMarcus Cousins. I don't know if the Celtics had the same impact. In Utah, you do something, we investigate it, fan is banned, not just from Jazz games, from the arena for life. Boston got some history of stuff. They suspend the fan or bar the fan for this year, the remaining of this season, and all of next season, and that's it. Why not the lifetime ban to continue upon the course that Utah set and kind of get some standards in place for stuff that should be stomped out anyway, but also with a dynamic where you have a predominantly African-American league?
Boston. I mean, this goes all the way back to Bill Russell. And then you got a lot of fans who, you know, feel a certain type of way towards people who look a certain type of way. You know, you banned the fan for two years. You telling me there's not enough? Like the guy in Utah was banned for life. You telling me there's not enough evidence there to follow suit in Boston? So you banned the fan for 2 years, and that's it.
Let's be real. It's not even 2 years.
Right.
2 seasons.
It's a year and some games.
Right.
This is a 48-game ban from what I was reading. 7 games the rest of this year and 41 home games for next year. Let me tell you what this is. This is money. Buddy sits too close and too expensive of a seats to keep this man's money out of their arena. That's what the Boston Celtics and TD Ameritrade Arena are telling me, at least.
And why would they assume that if you throw him out, he doesn't think he did anything wrong, he would come back and give the money anyway? Or maybe he's just that arrogant, that haughty, to think that he's just gonna show up when his ban is over.
The thing that really frustrates me with putting these are lifetime ban offenses in my book. You can't put a number on something like this. Like, so you're telling me when he comes back after game number 49 that he feels a different type of way? No. Like, so let's just go ahead and keep you out of here for life. Like, you can't put a number on how many games can DeMarcus Cousins, how many, like, does he feel comfortable coming back into that surrounding and that setting after 48 games? No. Keep this man and his energy out of the arena. That's a simple call. Like, and the part that really frustrates me is that this story this happened with DeMarcus Cousins before the stuff that happened with Russell Westbrook in Utah. The story just came out afterwards. The punishment was handed down afterwards. So the things just don't align. Why one lifetime ban and why 148 games? Like, these are lifetime banning offenses in my book.
I'm telling you, man. Look, I don't foresee us having another, Malice in the Palace. But we all know Boogie Cousins and his attitude.
Yeah.
And we know that if you breathe too hard around Boogie, you see that little frown on his face, the little snarl on his face. This is the perfect thing that you could say to him or towards him that'll have him coming after you.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, he might be justified.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, these fans, if you feel a certain type of way, my mama always said, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Your best bet is their best bet in that arena. If you ain't got nothing nice to say, shut up, eat your hot dog, eat your popcorn, and enjoy the game. Chill out. Because you don't know how one of these players are feeling on said day. You don't know what's happening in their life that little thing can just trigger them just like that.
That's kind of my point. Like, why would you, if you're the Boston Celtics, why would you want to even have that type of atmosphere be possible again? I mean, there's so many things that could happen. You bring this guy back in here, this same exact scenario happens. Boogie snaps, comes out there, injures other fans, including that fan. Like, there's just so many things that could happen to where this should have been a simple call. Like, you're not allowed back in our building, bro.
You have to protect the nature of the athletes, whether it be your athletes or visiting athletes. Why? Because it's about the integrity of the league.
Yeah.
You all are under the NBA. I don't care how this fan may feel about said guy and whatever he may have done, or if he expressed his thoughts on this topic or expressed his thoughts on that topic. As a fan, it is not, you do not have the right to sit up here and just say whatever you want to say, regardless of how much money you spent for that seat. Hey, kick you up out that seat, and somebody else will gladly pay for it, who can act and carry themselves a lot better while they're in that vicinity.
And I think the big thing is players should go tell.
Yeah.
Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to be the guy on SportsCenter. You're going to be the athlete out of control that can't control himself. You're going to be the rich guy beating up on the common man, or whatever, going to the stands. Alert team security, alert arena security. Stop the game if you have to. Point them out, get them out, throw them out, and keep them out. We don't have any room for bigots in the NBA.
So don't.
And that will do it for this edition of the Drop Step Podcast. We'll be back. Next episode, we'll be winding up the regular season. Playoff positioning should be solidified. Maybe draft positioning should be solidified. You know, the tanking might have to be done for a lot of teams. There are a couple of teams that still have something to tank for. We'll get to that. And get ready for postseason play, as I think even though LeBron James won't be there, we might still be treated to a really good postseason run, even though the King won't be a part of it. So we'll see you next time on the Drop Step Podcast.
Peace.